Good evening. This video that I'm putting together is pretty much a compilation of pieces from last Wednesday. I was in Council Bluffs at that time, so it's pieces throughout the day and then a little bit of information on the squirrel cage jail from Tuesday. When I went and toured that, I had a little bit more information on that. 3 or 4 things that I should mention so that things make sense as we go along through the video. On the squirrel cage jail, at the end of that little segment, I point out the gearing down at the base of the squirrel cage area, the cell area actually, because it's what's below and inside of the squirrel cage mechanism. There's this gear that was what was used to drive it as it was being turned. And originally that was driven by water because there was a creek underneath, an underground stream underneath the jail. And so they used water pressure to drive that gear. Then in later years after that gear, the gear dried up. No, after the stream dried up, then they literally had a hand crank, and they would move they would turn the jail some literally by hand, and every now and then it would get stuck, and it would be stuck for days, and you couldn't get people in and out of their cells, so that was a deal. But at any rate, you'll see that gearing when you're looking at some of the architectural drawings of the squirrel cage jail. So then there are a couple of silent clips included in here, because who knew that you couldn't do a little piece of video when you're actually on the phone. So I was on the phone talking with Charlie. Those are silent, but I decided to include them anyway because they showed things that I wanted to show. The first one is Wednesday morning at about 7:05, looking out the window. Then that clip will come up a little bit later in the later on, tucked into the evening too, because I wanted to compare the same view that much later in the day. So that would have been 10 hours. 10 hours between the first time that it shows looking out the window, and then I'll bring that clip up again, and then you can see what my view is out the window at that time. 10-hour time difference. So far as the pieces where I'm on the road to class and home from class, you got about an 8-hour difference there. The first one is at 7:45, and the one immediately following it is at 15:45 or 3:45 for people that don't tend to do military time. The other silent piece is just ending with my yummy supper. I could have that nice and safe and warm, and cooked it to my liking because that was the way the room was set up. So I was able to do that. Okay, so why show all this stuff from Wednesday with the weather and all that? Well, there are a few reasons. Wednesday was a rough day for a lot of people, many people. So on the one hand, it's just a way to share what it was like in Council Bluffs, let people who actually know us see what I was doing to be safe. But for another thing, with it being such a rough day for a lot of people, John 16:33 comes to mind. Jesus said, "In this world you will have trouble," or tribulation, as the King James puts it. But in Jesus we can have peace because he has overcome the world. So that was a thought that was on my mind, as people have been going through a lot of rough stuff weather-wise here lately, including last Wednesday. And I know it was much rougher some places than what I had it. Then also, how does this weather and my whole week in Council Bluffs, for that matter, how does that fit into what we know about our walk with the Lord? Well, for one thing, getting more education on what it is that I do on a daily basis at work is not a bad thing. It's the Lord If we go back to Proverbs 2, verse 6, tells us that the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. So, obviously, knowledge and understanding and wisdom are good things. So, going up there and getting more educated on the job that I'm doing that is, there to serve people and to be a light for Christ in the midst of serving people in law enforcement, that's a good thing. So far as the weather, Genesis 8:22 reminds us that seed time and harvest, summer and winter, spring and fall, all of that will continue as long as the earth endures. And then back over in Genesis 3:17 through 19, it does tell us that this earth is broken. So for those that talk about global warming and they're fussing that, we're doing this to the ozone and we're doing that, and so, in a way, they're wrong, because some of the chemical things that they say that we're doing are not actually harming the ozone. But in a way, they're right. We are the ones that caused this. Basically, the world has been deteriorating ever since the flood. So, and actually deteriorating ever since the fall of man. So if you go back to Genesis, it's just been happening faster since the flood. And it doesn't seem necessarily fast, because we're talking 4,000 years ago. 4,000 years ago it'd be Abraham, longer than that. Anyway, 6,000 years ago would be back to the creation, back to the fall of man. And then maybe 1,000 years or so up to the time of Noah. Maybe it was 1,500. I don't have all my numbers in mind exactly. But from the time of the fall, the earth has been in distress. Romans tells us that everything is groaning, waiting for the day of redemption. Well, why is that? Well, because when Adam and Eve sinned, it broke the perfection that God had created. So in Genesis 3:17 through 19, basically it's telling us that the earth is going to produce thorns and thistles, and that there's going to be, problems that they didn't have before when they lived in that perfect Garden of Eden. The weather disasters that we deal with are just part of that. So that's what I was looking at with part of what I was looking at with sharing my Wednesday adventures in the weather, and then getting back to the room where, safe and warm. So with that, I will start the videos. It is dropping sleep on us now, but watch that with my feet. We've had just enough rain that sleep is falling into a puddle of water. I say puddle, I mean, it's water standing on the parking lot. So, yeah, that's what we got here in Council Bluffs. It's not bad. But as the temperature drops, it's expected to get down to 21. So as the temperature drops, that may get interesting. So gotta get the vehicle unlocked, and then it'll be more. So I'm letting this warm up for a skinny minute, and then I will shut it down and put it on maps. Not that I don't know where I'm going, but I just would prefer to, have that reminder ahead of time when I'm on streets I'm not entirely familiar with, and be able to get there quickly and not get in people's way because I didn't know something till the last minute, or didn't remember something till the last minute in a city that I don't drive in frequently. Obviously driven in Council Bluffs before, but just not up here frequently, so I don't know where everything is. Anyway, that aside, it is still warm enough that I had no fear of doing that. A little bit later in the day, well, like when I get up to the sheriff's department, I will definitely be standing the wipers up because it may get a little bit uglier. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here and get going, so I will talk with you later on. Well, this is what it's looking like on the way back to the motel room. Phone is clamped on the dash so that I can drive hands-free, just so that everybody knows. I guess you can almost see the phone holder in the lower left-hand corner there. Anyway, we were let out a little bit early from class today so that we could get back to our rooms safely, and the ones that are at a distance, I don't know if you can see that sign. It actually has enough snow on it, it's hard to read. High wind warning, large vehicles, reduce speed. So that's the biggest problem today. There's a reasonable little amount of snow. It's not really accumulating because it's not terribly cold, so it's not going to build up. And the ground was starting to become warm. Springtime weather, that you have that warm and then cold and warm and then cold. So the ground has started to warm up some, and therefore it's not really going to build up to too much, not as much as what they had said was possible, and that's fine. But the wind blowing things around is, making visibility very interesting. So anyway, this is what it's looking like. Guess I could have let it keep going. It's a little different aspect here. See a little bit more of how poor the visibility is. I'll just let it go ahead and run on through till I get to my motel room. And that feller was in a bigger hurry than I am in this kind of weather, so he whipped right around me. But that's okay. Just let him go. And if I hadn't done this a couple or 3 days, I would probably have blasted right on past this little turn lane with this visibility. Partly because of the visibility and partly because of the way the signage is. The signage is on the building for my motel room, but that AMC Theater sign, it makes life confusing. So, at any rate, here we are, safe and sound, back in the parking lot. Oh my, look at the side of that truck. His north side is all covered with snow, and you can see that on these other vehicles. I was seeing that in the parking lot that I was in earlier today at training. The whole north side of my vehicle was covered, and I'm trying to see some lines here so that when everything melts off, I'm actually in a space. Anywho's, safely arrived, and can shut the windshield wipers off and shut the headlights off. Yeah, the north side of the vehicle was covered, and it has gotten cold enough that that it was starting to crust down. Cold enough that I will go ahead and raise my wipers again, just, so that I can know that they won't be stuck down to the windshield in the morning. But earlier today, if I hadn't raised them, wouldn't have been a big deal. Just slushy. But at this point, it has started to crust up a little bit. We haven't hit the absolute low for the day. We hit the high for the day at midnight, as in starting the day. Like at 12:01, it was in the 40s, and the low is supposed to be 21. Well, that's down there, but it's not going to stay really cold. So, you see the little tree in front of me? Snow covered on the north side and bare on the south side. I did see one fairly good sized limb down. I suppose the diameter of the limb was maybe 6 or 8 inches. And I don't know if it was, a weak limb beforehand or not, but I did see one limb down as I was headed back this way, on an older tree. So who knows? But that's all the damage I've seen from the wind. I know there have been some wrecks out there on the interstate today. I've heard that interstates were closed. Very thankful that I am not having to travel back and forth. One of our gals in the class that normally would travel back and forth, she's getting a motel room in town today so that she doesn't have to. And I think that's a wise choice since she has the option. So that will probably be enough for my weather report from Council Bluffs, Iowa. Now remember, this little clip that you're about to see again was at 7:05 in the morning. And then the following clip is exactly the same scene, but 10 hours later. So 17:05 or 5:05, as some people would say it, but 10 hours difference. And here is safely back in the room. And I'm just going to hold that still. Right now there's a little bit of snow in the air, but you can see those bushes waving around a bit. And that little tree right now seems fairly calm. Looking at a weather app, it was saying 31 degrees, but wind at 32 miles per hour with gusts to 37 was what was going on. Charlie had somewhere, it was 30 something with gusts up to 48 back home. So there's that. And then one other little thing I wanted to show you, or a couple of things. Apparently somewhere around 1 o'clock this afternoon, apparently the electricity went off, because that guy is flashing for about the last 3.5 hours, and this phone does not. It's an old phone that I've got, certain things on, no service on it, but at any rate, it has gone off, and it won't turn back on until I turn it back on. So yeah, I'd say we lost power here for at least a moment. So there's that. Then this is the other thing. Talked about having gone to the squirrel cage jail, and that's the exterior of the building as it looked back in the day when it was still whitewashed. They would do that to make it blend into the blend into the neighborhood a little bit better, you know. I mean, who wants to think that they're living right next to the jail where all the creepy criminals are, you know? So they would whitewash it, make it look a little bit more like just, you know, your average house or building. I would say at that point, some of the whitewash is, you know, worn off. They haven't, I don't know if they had necessarily power washed it, sandblasted it, whatever at that point, but obviously some of it was gone. And then this is back to its original brick. This horse is a Horses of Honor program that that they'll paint a horse statue for fallen soldier or fallen officers, and this is one that actually the fellow that toured us through the squirrel cage jail, this guy had been a close friend of his and died in the line of duty, as I understand it. So, and these are pictures from the inside. Obviously, these are postcards, but these are pictures that were taken inside. And this is where it gets the name Squirrel Cage. This whole grating, or framework, if you will, that would stay still, but the cells inside of it would be rotated in order to keep anybody from trying to break out. So these are some blueprint drawings of them. This is where the cells would be, and each of the cells were pie-shaped. This is what one of the cells would look like. That alcove back there, that is their toilet area with ventilation at the top. So they would do their business there, and it would vent upward. The problem with that is that for a number of years, the jailer and wife were living upstairs, so you can imagine in the summertime how that smelled. But this is the general structure of the jail. Over here on this side of the building, this piece that stands out a bit, that would be the entrance there, and this passageway here would be, you know, where they'd send them back in to the jail area. I don't remember just exactly how all that laid out, but anyway, it was a very interesting tour. Something that I would, you know, anybody that's interested in architecture, you know, old stuff, this was a functioning jail from 1885 to 1969 in Council Bluffs. There's two others, Gallatin, Missouri, and I forget where he said the other one was exactly. But that would be a very interesting thing for you to go tour. These drawings, these sketches were done in '57 by these two ISU students. They had come over here and gotten into some kind of trouble, and in lieu of serving out their whole time, they had them do some blueprint renderings that they were needing done. So, and you can see here, these are the teeth, essentially. Down below this lowest layer was a huge gear, if you will, that would turn this whole device in there, turn all these cells in there. So, anyway, I don't know if that's a very good description, explanation of it, but it was very, very cool to go tour that. And I would recommend anybody that enjoys old, neat stuff to go see it. Well, good night, and God bless, and I hope all that was enjoyable for you. Till next time.